No distress call. No wreckage. No survivors. It's all happening in the same place. And I think something is trying to tell me about this place. The Lake Erie Triangle. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the latest installment of From the Tomb with Cadoom. This is the 8th episode in this podcast and the 5th episode in our Triangle Files series. We are taking a look into the Lake Erie Triangle today. I hope you're ready for a ride because this one is interesting. We've got insane weather patterns, cryptids, shipwrecks, disappearing people, and mass tragedies coming at you from my tomb. So let's crack this one open and spill its secrets. The Lake Erie Triangle is a 200 square mile area of Lake Erie, with Cleveland, Detroit, and Buffalo being the defining points. That is Michigan, Ohio, and New York. This area has gained a reputation for strange disappearances and paranormal activity. Over the years, numerous ships and aircraft have vanished in the area, and most of the disappearances remain unsolved. Some believe that the causes are natural: the weather, the magnetic anomalies, the shallow water of the lake. Others, the more supernatural side, like cryptids, UFOs, portal, and water energy. Lake Erie is a 241 mile long by 57 mile wide lake with a surface area of 9,910 square miles. Its average depth is just a mere 62 feet, with a 210-foot maximum depth in the eastern end. It holds 116 cubic miles, or 480 cubic kilometers of water, and has approximately 871 miles of shoreline in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and Ontario. With its rough weather patterns and unpredictable wild storms, Lake Erie has historically been a deathly body of water for sailors and fishermen. Lake Erie's small size, shallow nature, and proximity to the jet stream cause it to go from calm to hazardous high wave situations in 30 minutes or less. Lake Erie has played a crucial role in shipping and industry in the United States. Its strategic location as a gateway to the Great Lakes has made it a vital point for trade and commerce. The Erie Canal, completed in 1825, was a significant engineering achievement that connected the Atlantic Ocean to the upper Great Lakes, greatly reducing the cost of shipping goods across the Appalachians. It facilitated the westward expansion of the United States and economic ascendance of New York. Then in 1959, they constructed the St. Lawrence Seaway, allowing ships to bypass the Great Lakes and reach the sea directly, greatly impacting the shipping industry and the use of the Great Lakes and Lake Erie specifically. The shallow depths, powerful winds, and weather changes make it notorious for shipwrecks. Over 1,000 ships have been lost in Lake Erie, and as many are believed to be the source of the lake's reputation. But it's not only the shipwrecks that have fueled the legends. Shipwrecks have been a constant plague in Lake Erie. Most assume this is due to the heavy influence on the shipping industry, causing a massive number of ships for the size of the lake, leading to an increased number of shipwrecks in that region that are harder to find or make note of because of the number of ships. 3 we're going to focus on today are the SS Marquette and Bessemer No. 2, the Ghost Ferry, First of all, so let's crack open this one a little bit. This 350-foot steel car ferry vanished on December 8, 1909 during a violent winter storm, crossing from Ohio to Ontario. It departed the morning of December 7th on a routine 5-hour trip to deliver cargo to Port Stanley when it encountered sustained winds of 75 miles an hour. On December 10th, a debris field was found, painted the color of the SS Marquette and Bessemer No. 2, and on December 12th, a week after it vanished, a lifeboat was found near Erie, Pennsylvania. Mysteriously, when the captain's body was found, he had slash marks that matched a cleaver and 2 large knives found on another of the crewmates that washed ashore. It is likely we will never know the true cause of the wreck or the actions the ship tried to take, as anyone aboard it is assumed dead. Another reason we won't know the details is because there was a myriad of conflicting statements about reports of sightings of the ship. Some say she was in Ontario, some say she was in Ohio. Some say they saw the ship outside of Port Stanley at 6 p.m., and others say they hear the ship's whistle at 3 a.m. near Port Stanley. But they also hear the whistle at 5 a.m. near Port Bruce, Ontario, a few miles east of Port Stanley. However, on the Ohio side of Lake Erie, in Conneaut, Ohio, late December 7th, her whistle was heard at 1 a.m., and a captain and chief engineer of a steamer anchored outside of Conneaut reported seeing the M&B. Wreckage was reported near Long Point, a peninsula on the Canadian side, on December 10th by William B. Davik, another ship. Despite its massive size, the wreck has never been found, making it the most enduring lost ship on Lake Erie. Speculation on natural reasons has a few theories. The ship lacked a stern gate. The idea was that this would allow them to steer straight into the seas in rough water. But when the stern sank down in the troughs of the waves, the hull filled with water. The ship was listing so badly this night that its upper railing was underwater. The captain, McLeod, reported the problem, and it was agreed to be fixed that winter. Also, the rail cars may have broken free and caused the ship to capsize, or battering waves may have flooded the boilers and extinguished the fires, causing the ship to ultimately lose all the power. Or was this something more mysterious? Either way, 60 years before the M&B, we have the G.P. Griffith that disappeared as well. The G.P. Griffith was built in Maumee, Ohio in 1847. In 1850, a tragedy struck. This passenger steamer caught fire just 2 miles from the shore. The captain steered for the beach, but the ship hit a sandbar only 600 feet from shore. Hundreds of immigrants died and were buried in a mass grave near the shore. Only several dozen passengers survived, making it the deadliest shipwreck on Lake Erie and the 3rd worst in all of the Great Lakes. Many that perished were weighed down by gold coins sewn into their clothing, causing them to sink instantly. For 174 years, the exact location of the debris was unknown until a local diver, Mark Lasmanis, discovered the site in 2024. Mark was on his first dive of the year just off the shore of his home in Willowick, Ohio, when he saw what appeared to be an expansive debris field. About 18 feet down, the lake floor was covered with worn and rusted nails, rods, and bolts. The first thing he picked up was a key that was broken but looked untarnished. Could it be from the Griffith, he wondered? Lasmanis still wasn't certain he found the Griffith he grew up hearing about. until the next day, finding more evidence. I started finding some other pieces of interesting cast iron stuff when I glanced over and I saw a coin sticking out, he told the Lake Erie Living magazine. I don't even know how to say it. Kind of a thing of joy, and I just hurrahed underwater, he continued. Knowing how quickly the lake changes, he took the coin to prevent it from being covered and documented where he found it by video. Once on land, he saw it was an 1815 Brazilian silver coin, which is significant because until this point, it was believed most immigrants on the ship were European. Since then, Las Manas has found more items, irons, tools, and decorative cast iron from the mid-19th century. The artifact with the most ties to the Griffith are those that appear damaged from high heat, such as several pieces of flatware melded together. Even the Ohio State Historic Preservation Office has said there is enough evidence to warrant adding the discovery to official state records. Because the state has no plans to conduct an official archaeological survey of the debris field, Las Manas is the only person working to document and preserve the site and artifacts. Las Manas has already contacted several maritime museums and plans to donate artifacts of interest. It is believed that the remains of the Griffith are scattered along a route because the Griffith was moved several times after the fire, attempting to bring it to shore for possible salvage. This is where the reports thin out, however. According to local diver lore over the years, it appears part of the Griffith made it a few miles eastward because of the burned and destroyed condition of the hull and several attempts to move it, the largest piece having been dragged into deeper water near the mouth of the Chagrin River. Some say the machinery and timbers are still visible. The bell from the Griffith was also found in the 1970s, but the artifacts discovered by Las Manas are the first discovered since 174 years ago. This ship suffered a known tragedy, was attempted to be recovered several times, and was still lost to us. But the same lake, a different crew, and 21 years earlier, there was another victim of this inland sea. So let's talk about the lake serpent. The year is 1829. Lake Erie wasn't the vacation spot we know today. It was a wild, unpredictable frontier. In the fledgling port of Cleveland, a 47-foot schooner named the Lake Serpent untied its lines. She wasn't a grand warship, she was a workhorse, built just 8 years prior in 1821. Captain Ezra Wright, his brother Robert, and a small crew had a simple mission: sail to Cunningham's Island, fill the hold with heavy limestone, and bring it back to build the foundations of a growing Ohio. They make it to the island. They load the stone. But on the return trip, the sky turns the color of a bruise. A tempest screams across the shallowest of the Great Lakes. The lake serpent vanishes. No SOS, no witnesses, just the silent churning of water. Weeks later, the lake begins to give up its secret, but not the ship. In October, the bodies of Ezra and Robert Wright wash ashore in Lorain County. A few days later, another crewman is spotted floating near the surface. For the families on shore, the story ends in grief. For the maritime world, the lake serpent becomes a ghost. Because Lake Erie is so shallow, it's known as a shipwreck machine. Storms kick up the bottom silt, burying wrecks in a tomb of mud. For nearly 190 years, the oldest ship built in Cleveland stays hidden in total darkness, just a few miles from the shore. Fast forward to 2015, Tom Kolzak, A researcher with the Cleveland Underwater Explorers is watching a sonar screen. A jagged shape appears on the monitor off the coast of Marblehead. It's small, half buried, and sitting in about 50 feet of water. But identifying a ship from the 1820s isn't like identifying a modern car. There are no license plate, no hull numbers. Archaeologists from the National Museum of the Great Lakes begins a forensic dive. They find the first clue, the cargo. The ship's belly is still filled with massive boulders of limestone, the exact cargo the Serpent was carrying the night she went down. Then they find the smoking gun. Near the bow, carved into the very wood of the ship, is the faint, unmistakable image of a serpent. It matches the historical records of the ship's namesake perfectly, and these types of figureheads were not common in these days of the lake serpent. Experts are now 95% certain this is the lake serpent. She is the oldest shipwreck ever found in Lake Erie. Today, she remains exactly where she settled, an underwater time capsule. She isn't a gold-filled treasure galleon, but she represents the grit of the people who built the Midwest. Every time a storm kicks up a wave on Lake Erie, it is a reminder that the lake remembers everything it takes, even if it takes 2 centuries to tell the story. And once again, it is time for us to look at the whys of the mystery, the natural and supernatural. First, we have the weather. A surprising number of shipwrecks occur on the Great Lakes, estimated at more than 8,000, and a quarter of those took place on Lake Erie. Now, we, of course, know that all bodies of water are susceptible to some amount of rapid weather shifts, but there seems to be an abnormal level on Lake Erie. One of the reasons for this is that it is closer to the jet stream, causing greater shifts in the weather being so far south. Violent, rapid-forming storms and shallow, treacherous geography are the natural causes of most shipwrecks in Lake Erie. Known for having a higher density of wrecks than most places in the world, sudden November gales produce massive waves up to 35 feet that quickly overwhelm vessels, while sightings or water level changes and dense fog create extreme navigation hazards. As far as the sudden violent storms, also called November gales to the locals, strong winds can turn calm water into hazardous high wave conditions in 30 minutes, with the deadliest storms often occurring in November. Waves on Lake Erie can exceed 25 to 35 feet, often amplified by shallow water shoaling at the east end of the lake. The water level changes themselves. Sustained winds can push water from one basin to another, causing drastic water level drops or rises that ground ships in the west or strand them in the east. Then you obviously have the submerged hazards. The lake contains numerous shifting sandbars, hidden reefs, and unmapped rocky shoals underneath the surface that can easily put holes in ships. Then, being in the Midwest, you have the intense fog and snowstorms often making navigating difficult, leading to groundings and accidents between ships. Then you have the Michigan-based sudden freeze and ice. Early winter ice can damage hulls and affect navigation, particularly in November when the snowstorms begin to strike. Then we have the supernatural reasons, such as the ghost ship of Lake Erie, the Mary Celeste. The original Mary Celeste was a famous American merchant ship found abandoned in the Atlantic Ocean in 1872. But Lake Erie has its own version. The local lore shows that the Lake Erie Mary Celeste is a phantom vessel that appears out of the fog to disappear just as quickly. Some say it appears when the weather turns foul, as if beckoning ships to their grave. Sailors describe it as being eerie and silent, drifting in and out of visibility. The mystery surrounding this ghost ship has given rise to the ghostly encounters that still persist today. Several lighthouses around Lake Erie are said to be haunted as well. The Fairport Harbor Lighthouse in Ohio was built in the early 19th century, supposedly haunted by the spirit of a late lighthouse keeper. Legend has it that a tragic accident in which the keeper's wife and child drowned in the waters nearby. Ever since, people hear footsteps, voices, and even see the ghostly apparitions of the keeper's family. Then we have the Point Abano Lighthouse in Ontario. This hotspot is known for strange noises, flickering lights, and sightings of ghostly figures near the tower. One of the most chilling stories involves a lighthouse keeper who was said to have died under mysterious circumstances. His ghost is still believed to haunt the area and add to the lighthouse's creepy reputation. There are also a number of points along the shores of Lake Erie that put forth this supernatural element of the lore as well. One notable site is the Lakeview Cemetery in Cleveland, which is said to be haunted by the spirits of the many early settlers who were buried there. The graveyard is also home to the famous James A. Garfield Memorial. Visitors report hearing odd whispers and footsteps, particularly at night, and some have claimed to see apparitions walking among the tombstones. The former site of the Erie Canal is another along Lake Erie. It is believed that the canal's old route is haunted by the spirits of those who died during its construction. They are said to still see the ghostly figures walking along the old canal route near the lake. One of the most prominent legends, however, is the Black Dog of Lake Erie, centered on a large, shaggy black dog with glowing red eyes. According to lore, this phantom dog is the spirit of a Newfoundland mascot that was killed in the Welland Canal in the 1800s after sailors cruelly allowed it to drown. It is said that if this black dog is seen on board, then the ship is destined to sink. It was reportedly sighted before the sinking of the Isaac G. Jenkins, the Mary Jane, and the Thomas Hume. So, there we have it. Another geographical location surrounded by mystery, filled with the unexplained in extreme quantities. It's just another great lake, but it's used so heavily for travel, recreation, and industry. How does that suddenly get disrupted by tragedy so often? How has societal development not made it better by now? Why are these areas so similar? Planes, ships, people, weather, massive search efforts, energy shifts, natural and unnatural, communication loss, no distress signals, no wreckage, no survivors. But why so much of the unexplained? UFOs, cryptids, spirits, the anomalies. Different locations around the world, same outcomes, same circumstances, so many similarities. Yet the specifics vary so widely. Why is this happening? Is there a reason? Can I find it someday? Maybe it's not about where it is, but what it is. What happens there, the history, the geography, the soul of the land. I'm starting to wonder if I'm the one connecting these anymore, or if something else is trying to tell me about the triangles. And that does it for this episode of From the Tomb with Cadoom. I want to thank you for tuning in with me again this week. Check us out again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time when we take a look at the Bennington Triangle, continuing our Triangle Files series. Here on From the Tomb with Cadoom. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Wednesday. Be sure to go follow the Cadoom social medias. Also, if you're interested in any custom products work, go check out my business on Facebook, Cadoom's Customs. I have a lot of different processes I use. I can do most clothing and other cloth materials, laser engraving. I can order direct to film prints and use those. There are multiple things I can do. Go check it out if you're into any kind of personal or customized products you're looking for. So I will see you next week. Until then, keep it twisted and escape your tomb. Until we crack mine open again next week. You guys have a good night and welcome to the Cadoomed family.